still stuck back there. Come on out of that cave. Come on. You can build your own house. There is liberty. Don't you know? Have you heard? You have been set free. We are free thinkers. We're free. We are free thinkers.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in the house. Welcome home. Welcome home. We are glad that you're here. I'm Janice Pons, your host of From Destruction to Dignity. Clinical perspectives, spiritual truths. You know, it all ties in. The spiritual ties in with the clinical, the mind, our will, our souls, our intellect, our drives, our desires. It all ties in together. You know, it's all God's idea. And He wants us healthy and well. He wants us using strategies, skills, and tools for recovery and wellness. And He has a path. And it's observable. It's measurable. There's a way that we can know I'm doing better. I'm making better choices. And some people may need the therapeutic process. That means you're working one-on-one with a clinician or a professional. Some people may not. Everybody's at a different level. And you know, I always refer to that resource page on my website, www.janicepons.com. And on there, there's a resource page where you can assess and make available to you resources that you can tap into. If you need a therapist, if you need a doctor, you need a support group, you may find that you need a more intensive level of care when you're drinking hard liquor and you can't let it go and it's affecting other areas of your life and your physical health is being affected, your relationships are being affected. It might be a time to take a closer look at that. And those resources on there can help you to determine what level of care you may need. You may not need a medically supervised detox, but then again, you may need a medically supervised detox. I never will forget the story of the man. A ministry posted on Facebook. Everybody pray for this man. He walked in our church office, and he's got blood pressure 200 over. I think it was 120. It was crazy. And he said, "We just need y'all to pray and be in agreement with us in prayer in Jesus' name that we cast this alcohol demon out." And I said, "Stop it! Get him to the hospital right now." Right now, I knew he was in danger of a stroke, seizure, anything. Listen, there's foolishness, there's faith foolishness, and there's presumption. Look, they were way in error, flirting with intensive liability. So they got the man to the hospital, encountered Christian staff at that hospital. The man got on the right medication that he needed, made sure his vitals got within a range that he wasn't going to die, have a stroke. He needed a medically supervised detox. He was drinking massive amounts of alcohol. You cannot stop cold turkey. It would take a miracle that you wouldn't have some physiological side effects. So what am I saying? We got to use wisdom. You may need the most intensive level of care. Then again, you may not need it. It just depends on the person, the situation, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay, whatever level you need. So access those resources because things happen in our lives, and sometimes some things can be avoided. Some things are accidents. Some things are tragic. Sometimes people end up with depression because of chemical imbalances, because of trauma, stress, loss, grief. It can even have a genetic component to it. And we want to pray for those situations spiritually. All of it, we want to get God involved. And then there's some things that can be avoided that happen to people. And we're going to talk about that today. You know, one of my credentialings professionally is that I'm a certified brain injury specialist. And boy, was that a wake-up call. I ended up going into just getting credentialed in that area based upon where I was working. And I was like, a whole new world opened up to me in terms of understanding what people can be confronted with a traumatic brain injury. And guess what? Brain injuries are called the silent epidemic. Why is it called the silent epidemic? People have them and they don't even know that that's what is going on with them. They're acting a certain way, their behavior patterns change. They could have had a certain incident that happened and no one, they could have gotten in a fight with someone. Excuse me, their family not even know that they got in a fight and they just gone on and they've got a brain injury. And it can go on for years and years and years. And I've been in treatment teams where we just take somebody down a line of question like, sir, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a fight with anybody? Oh, yeah, man, I get in fights all the time. I've been fighting since I was 14. I'm 44 now. Oh, okay. So were you ever knocked unconscious? Yeah, about 5 or 6 times. How long were you unconscious? Oh, one time I was 2 or 3 times. I was unconscious for hours. That lets me know right away that he had a TBI. So did you go get treatment? No. So after that, did you notice any changes in your behavior? Well, that's when the alcoholism really kicked in. Why did it really kick in then? See, I think a certain way, and teams of people that I work with, they think a certain way. Okay. So see, it's learning how to connect the dots, connect the dots. So I have run into so many people. They had a TBI based upon what they experienced. They were unconscious and their behaviors change. And so we're going to get into that today because a lot of people are dealing with TBIs and we need to be aware that remember, provoke thought. That's what I like to do. Bring awareness and point people towards intervention if they need it. A TBI is something you need to be aware of. And we're going to look at a video clip here in a minute. You know what? Is that first one queued up? The first one? I want you to look at this. Is a very short, I think it's about 1 minute. Just look at it. It speaks for itself. It's pretty thought provoking. Those types of incidents happen every day. Every day. Traumatic brain injury, TBI. What you saw in that clip were real live situations that happened to be caught on tape of people having a traumatic injury happen to their brain. So what constitutes a traumatic brain injury? See, there can be an acquired brain injury. Pretty much that's an injury that occurs after birth. A traumatic happens when a sudden external physical assault damages the brain. You saw the explosion. We saw the young man on the bike on the bike, and then just that tree. He bam straight into the tree. I think that's how Sonny Bono, Sonny and Cher. I'm dating myself. We know about Sonny and Cher. Sonny Bono, he died skiing and just head hit straight into a tree. That's how he died from a TB, a traumatic brain injury. I know a young man, traumatic brain injury, skateboarding. I didn't wear a helmet. A lot of these people don't wear helmets. I cringe when I see people on motorcycles, no helmets, on these bicycles, no helmets. These children riding bicycles, no helmets. They have these helmets for a reason. They fall, they hit, and their brain, it's just so easy for the brain to just, it goes back and forth. The brain is very delicate. And it's the skull has got these, I mean, it's just got these the way the skull is built, it's real easy to get a brain injury. And so a traumatic brain injury happens when that sudden external physical assault damages the brain. It is one of the most common causes of disability in our nation and the death in adults. I had an uncle lost his balance. Oh my Lord, I see these older people, they are what you call high risk for falls, and they just don't have their balance, they don't have their gait, and there's nobody really paying attention to them. And I had an uncle, I mean, he just ended up just going all the way back, just was what, bam, hit his head, he ended up dying. TBI, traumatic brain injury, it's a broad term that describes a vast array of injuries that happen to the brain. Now, most often people get TBIs from a fall. I'm telling you, in my line of work for the last 2 years, we have seen a huge increase of people coming in totally disabled, totally debilitated because they were drunk and fell down a flight of stairs. True story. Drunk, fell down a flight of stairs. Someone finds them. They're in a pool of blood. It's very tragic because, see, that can totally be avoided. I mean, people are drunk and they're just up walking around. They tumble down the stairs and that they can't even walk anymore. I encountered a man that he couldn't even speak anymore. It's really sad, and it's all related to alcoholism. Of course, if someone tries to kill themselves and shoots themselves in the head, and they survive it, they're going to have a traumatic brain injury. I've seen that. Motor vehicle accidents, we saw that. That bombing that went off, assaults. Oh my goodness! And we're going to cue that one up. How many times have I seen on social media these people that are brawling and fighting, and it's so vicious and so cutthroat? And I can tell when I said brain injury, and in the hood, gotta go there. Let's go there. In the hood, y'all know what I mean when I say in the hood. Listen, it's like they focus on the head. It's like stomp on the head. They go there with their feet and focus, and you just see them cupping their head. I said, Lord help, cup your head, baby. Protect your head. Because I know where they're going. And it's like some demon takes over them to inflict a brain injury on their own people. And you gonna tell me who is your problem? I want us to look at this clip of what happens in a gang fight related to traumatic brain injury. This happens all the time. Let's look at this. Give it your undivided attention, please. Okay, you see how easy it is to get a brain injury? People fight, cuss, escalate it. You know, you hear the past podcasts I've talked about effective communication, aggression. One type of communication is aggressiveness, verbally aggressive, physically aggressive. The most physically aggressive type of communication is murder. It's just a breakdown of communication. It escalates. Hey, he hit this one, the other one hit that one, and it escalates. And before you know, somebody laying on the floor dead, just like that man right there. Just like what we just saw in that clip, that happens all the time, and they just laying there dead. And we talked about the skateboarding and that kind of thing, but right now I'm looking at this infliction, this purposeful infliction of injury upon people in their heads, and they fall and they hit, and it's just their lives will never be the same again. So what happens is, you know, you can, if a bullet goes through a brain, you know that that's going to get in there and rip it up and cause damage. But you can also have shattered pieces of a skull. Let's say a wreck happens, that person's head goes through the windshield, their skull is shattered a lot of times, and so that shattered skull, that sharp bone, goes through the brain. And I've just seen the after effect of that, and it's quite a rude awakening. So what happens is there can be bruising, there can be torn tissues, there can be bleeding, there can be a brain bleed. Someone was just recently telling me about this little old lady. She fell and she bumped her head, and she was like, "I'm all right, I'm all right, I'm all right." And her family was like, "Okay, she'll be okay." And they didn't get her checked out. But she hit her head hard. But she's hollering, "I'm all right, I'm all right, I'm all right." 7 hours later, she was dead. That could have got some intervention. She probably could have survived it. You can't play when there's been a blow to the head, a blow to the body, and if you're not sure, go to urgent care. You got to get that intervention. Anyway, so when we look at brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, they can come in the form of, for purposes of our discussion and just to provoke thought, bring awareness. Some people may need the intervention. They may have had this happen and just went, maybe that's what's going on here. And we need to get that checked out or get an assessment. There are so many ways that you can approach this, but it's mild, moderate, severe. Kind of talked about that with alcohol, mild, moderate, severe. We're saying with those terms just give us a way to quickly assess it and look at it. So, mild traumatic brain injury, there are certain signs and symptoms. So, the physical symptoms of, they may get hit the blow in the head. It might, sometimes you can tell. It's like, whoa, that was serious. That was hard. That was loud. The hit, they may fall, they may bump it. You don't know how serious it is. So, some of the physical symptoms of a mild TBI, traumatic brain injury: headaches, nausea, vomiting, fatigue or drowsiness, problems with speech. All of a sudden, their speech shifts, it changes. Dizziness or loss of balance, you gotta pay attention. Then there can be sensory problems where they're having blurred vision or ringing in the ears or bad taste in the mouth. All of a sudden, that's totally unusual. It's like that really warrants provokes thought in terms of getting attention. Or changes in the ability to smell in a mild TBI, traumatic brain injury. Sensitivity to light or sound, they just can't take the light. They can't, it's just too much sound for them. So the cognitive and behavioral and mental health, mental symptoms related to a mild TBI, there may be some loss of consciousness for a few seconds up to a few minutes. It may be no loss of consciousness, but a state of being dazed or confused or disoriented. They are not oriented to person, place, time. They don't know where they are. They may be oriented to who they are, but they don't know where they are. They don't know the date. They don't know the time. So these are questions that, hey, what's your name? Where are you? Tell me, well, who am I? Where are we right now? And I remember in a basketball practice, that happened in a basketball practice that my son was in, and somebody got hit in the head with the basketball, and they were just stunned. And they were just like dazed. The coach immediately engaged them in these orientation questions. But anyway, they can have difficulty sleeping. This is with mild, sleeping more than usual. You have to pay attention. If someone hit their head, we got to be paying attention. We need to get these things checked out and get shared liability. I love that term. I remember I learned that term the hard way back early in my profession. A situation had happened, and someone's DHS worker said to me the next day, you want to get at a minimal shared liability. And for that situation, it would have been calling 911, who was the police. Moderate to severe. So you got mild, then you can have moderate, but moderate is pretty serious. It's pretty serious and severe. Oh God, I've seen the people with the severe, and it's like, wow, brilliant people, masters in business administration, stopping to help somebody on the side of the road. I mean, just I can tell you story after story after story after story. Somebody taking the jack, beating him, beating the head. Why? Mean and evil to the core. That man's gone now. He died eventually from his brain injury. Moderate to severe traumatic brain injuries can include any of these signs: physical symptoms, loss of consciousness from several minutes to hours to days, persistent headache and headaches that get worse, repeated vomiting, repeated nausea, convulsions or seizures. The brain, it's just a tailspin into seizures, dilation of one or both pupils in the eyes. You need a doctor, somebody medical looking at that. Clear fluids draining from the nose or the ears, inability to awake from sleep. You can't wake them up. Weakness or numbness in the fingers or toes. Being aware that their head was hit, and there's this change in behavior. Loss of coordination, cognitively profound confusion. When people get profoundly confused, you need to get intervention. You got to find out what else is going on. Agitation, combativeness, or other unusual behaviors. Why are they aggressive all of a sudden? TBI, sometimes TBI, slurred speech, coma, or other disorders of consciousness. Children, see, a lot of times children can't verbalize what they're experiencing. They're feeling confused. They're just like, I'm not right. But you can tell something's going on with them. So there may be a change in their eating or nursing habits, unusual, easily irritable. I mean, I know someone that got a TBI from a shaken baby syndrome. They just shook her so hard her little head's going like this. Bless her, precious sweetheart. She's so precious. Shaken baby syndrome. Persistent crying and inability to be consoled. Change in ability to pay attention, change in sleep habits, seizures, sad or depressed mood, drowsiness, loss of interest in favorite towards the activities. Pay attention. Pay attention to children. Pay attention to those that we got to be paying attention to each other. We got to have each other's backs. Somebody bumped their head, they hit their head. You got to pay. You don't just go, oh, well, they fine. And they'll say, I'm fine, I'm good. I've seen people do it all the time. Be dead 7 or 8 hours later. So when do we see a doctor? I would always err on the side of caution. I just said, well, you didn't really need to come, but it was best that you got it checked out. Always see your doctor if you or your child has received a blow to the body or the head that concerns you or causes changes. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Seek emergency medical care. If there are any signs, don't take any chances. Get it checked out. These people are trained professionals. They know how to assess. They know what to look for. Any signs or symptoms of a traumatic brain injury following a recent blow to the head or to the body. Remember, we've got mild, we've got moderate, we've got severe. Now, I want to spend a few minutes on something here related to TBI. A lot of people are not paying attention to their children. I'm appalled when I'm out in public. Listen, there were people that would ask to babysit my son. I was like, no way. You don't even watch your own children. And no way I'm going to give you mine at your house. No way. Because you come to my house and your child got their hand in my water purifier. And you sitting there and not saying nothing. They're just all over the place. being potential. And I'm watching. I'm like, you're not saying anything. Okay, there's something wrong with this picture. No, my son's not coming over there to spend the night. You don't watch your kids. Father, help us. I'll see parents walking out of Walmart on the phones. True, scroll, looking. They're not even looking to see. They put their own selves at risk for a brain injury about getting hit by a car, because they're not even looking both ways to see that the way is clear for them to cross, let alone the 2-year-old that's walking behind them that they don't even see. They don't see their own child. They're not looking. That's very concerning for me. And I'm like, this is a train wreck getting ready to happen. One time I walked inside Walmart. You know, you walk in Walmart and these entrances, and over there to the left or the right, there's these red box things, I guess, where you get videos. So it's a parent over there just doing what they do, paying attention to that. Their little 2-year-old child was in the little grocery cart buggy behind them. You got to keep your child within your view, your line. I call it line of sight. On the psychiatric floor, we call that person suicidal. Let's keep them in line of sight. That means you got to watch them. They're not safe. Children, they just don't know. They don't know danger. So this little one, this child, maybe it was, I say 18 months, 15 to 18 months. Where their little bottom was supposed to have been sitting, you know, the legs come out, where you sit them in there, and you put the little buggy in. Hey, baby. That child was standing up, wobbling. Parent didn't have a clue. And I walked in, I'm like, what? And I was like, sir. And I say, sir, look, I see. Sir, in that situation. And they're like, oh, and then it's like it's a child's fault. Wasn't a child's fault. They're curious. Listen, honey, once they start crawling, you better watch them. I know somebody, their child just died by an accident. You got to watch them. You just have to watch them. It is so easy for a brain injury to occur. We want to be aware. I'm very passionate about this, as you can see. Listen, all of these things that I talk about, these things respond to strategy, skills, tools, awareness, knowledge, information. And it's like, oh, I never thought about it. I didn't even know what a TBI is. So some people may have had these injuries. You saw the clips. That could be you. That could be a family member that went through that and it didn't even get treated. Get in touch with it. Start at least with your PCP, your primary care physician. Tell them the history. So sometimes you may need an assessment by a neuropsychologist. I work with a neuropsychologist every day, and that man does assessments, and he finds from the data and the assessments deficits that never would have been picked up, and we can make interventions based upon those assessments. Listen, what we looked at today is traumatic brain injuries. That's another component that we can look at that takes us from destruction to dignity. Get educated, get informed. God bless you. Come back. See you next time.
We are God empowered. Strength is ours. Liberty, been set free. Education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation. A new nation.